Hey guys, if you're ready to hear from one of the industry's best known faces and voices who's been on all sides of the table from running his family's dealership group to starting Ford Direct to launching Kain Automotive, consulting with countless dealers, merging in with NCM, launching a 20 group for vendors, you're in the right place. This is David Kain. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the conversation. David Kain, I'm happy to have you here. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Andrew. It's wonderful to be with you. I don't know what the weather is like in your neck of the woods, but we're seeing something very rare. We've got sunshine and warm temperatures, which is great for early March.
Are you in Lexington right now?
I am in Louisville, which is where we've made our home now.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah,
Same, but different. Yeah, I'm in Austin. It's beautiful. And more
it
importantly,
is.
how's Eve? Before we
She
got on
is
this call,
doing
you were doing some
great.
tech support.
Yes, absolutely. She's doing wonderful, and you've met her. She really loves meeting all of our friends and the clients that come to town for our annual workshop. So it's great, and certainly she is representative of so many spouses in the automotive industry who appreciates all our long hours and our effort to try to help our clients really achieve good success. So.
Okay, I think that's the unspoken hero in the next room that gives the bandwidth for travel and nods the head and is an ear to listen to, anything you've got on your plate.
Yeah, and although we smile a lot in public, uh, potentially we don't always smile when we walk through that door at home. And when you've got someone who's willing to listen to all your tales of woe and make you feel like you still know what you're doing and are capable, it's great to have someone in your corner.
Totally. Yeah, I try to take sometimes I'll stop when I'm kind of huffing and puffing towards my front door. I'm like, okay, I'm about to walk in to an unsuspecting, person that is going to be, I'm going to come in hot or, with a huge agenda, but I need to take a breath and ease into
Mhm.
this.
Well, I think we all can remember if it wasn't just yesterday, but it was within a certain amount of time where we were sitting in the driveway, sitting in front of our home on the street, and we're still decompressing or we're completing a phone call that we were just trying to squeeze in one more before we walk in the door.
I completely can relate. Well, let me give a quick intro. And this is an unfair introduction because you could do a better job. But just from my observation, ever since I've been paying attention to the automotive industry exclusively for maybe the last 10 years, I've known your name, I've known your face, I've known the things that you have been a part of, and it's been just a unifying presence for the automotive industry for everybody from all sides of the desk, from vendors to customers to dealers to fixed ops, and being a level-headed voice at times, at least when you're on camera or you're on stage or when you're training or when you're running a 20 group, to helping to connect dots and to start healthy conversations. And I know automotive's been in your life and in your blood and in your family for generations now. And now you've done a couple super interesting things over the last 25 years. But if it's fair, could we start with just Ford Direct and kind of what the motivation was to get started with that and how that began?
Yeah, that's great. And, I'll mirror back, as I sit here with you and Ashley, and and I've seen you present, and I've seen Ashley present, and you would love this now that Ashley works with you. But when she was a member of our Internet BDC Manager 20 group, and she's got everybody in the room huddled up around her in the middle and she's got her computer and showing them all how to do social media. And you've got, rightfully some of the acclaimed leaders in all of automotive digital sitting there learning from Ashley. And Ashley, I don't know if I'm calling the timeline right, but that was probably about 8 to 10 years ago, maybe even longer. And boy, oh boy, you have really come a long way. So she's in the right place, and you've recruited a really wonderful talent. So just throw that out there. I want to give kudos when they're deserved. But Ford Direct, I was on Ford's dealer council in the year 2000, and to kind of set the stage properly, the reason why I got on dealer council was I politicked for it because in the Cincinnati region, our regional manager named Larry Gregerson, he was messaging the dealers and saying that Ford was creating what they called the Ford Retail Network. And the Ford Retail Network was a simple way to basically say Ford Motor Company wanted to take over in several markets and buy all the dealerships. And in this case, in Cincinnati region, it was the Indianapolis market. And they wanted to take over all the stores, put a figurehead dealer in there to manage it. And Ford Motor Company was going to start, being the retailer in those markets. So they already had Salt Lake City, they had Rochester, New York, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and they were known as like the Tulsa Auto Collection and stuff. So I thought, well, I'm 39 years old. I'm dealer principal of one of our family stores, our Ford store. And I thought, well, that's crazy. Had plenty of calls with Larry and was, at the dealer council meetings, just, we can't do that. We're the Ford Retail Network, right? And then at the same time, Ford Motor Company, the vice president, general manager, his name was Bob Rury at the time. He goes, in an article in Automotive News, now that the internet's available, we're going to start selling cars direct to consumers. But don't worry, Ford dealers, you still get to service the cars. And so I thought, here, my dad started our family Ford store the year I was born, 1960. And this is crazy. I'm finally running the store, and now Ford's getting ready to take over. And, in two fronts. So I was talking to a friend of mine, Steve Moses, who is from Moses Ford in West Virginia and Moses Auto Group. He says, look, if you want to do anything about it, you got to get elected to dealer council. So I got elected to dealer council, told everybody, I want to do this. So 40 of us on the year 2000 dealer council arrive in Detroit, and we all get to pick our committee assignments. So I selected information technology and internet. And on this little subcommittee, of which our primary job was to interact with DMSs, information technology, and then the side thing in the year 2000 called the internet. And for those of you who remember the days, internet for automotive started around 96, 97 when, in our case, our newspaper came to us and said, do you want to build a website? And I was like, sure, we want to be first. What's a website? And so, they plug it in, and about 10 minutes later, something renders on the screen, and he goes, that's a website. And I'm like, we're in, let's get this going. So then my dad and I are at NADA, and Automotive pitches this pill bottle to us when we're walking through the aisles, and we catch it, and it says, your cure for slow business is, get on the internet with Automotive. So get on the internet with Automotive. We hold the whole state of Kentucky. And so by the year 2000, I'm just all excited about the internet. And so we get up there, I get on that committee, and we hear from the report outs from Ford that, oh, y'all don't have to worry about the internet. Ford's got you covered. We're going to take care of it. And then a member of our committee, who this will be really well-known name to all Ford dealers who are listening, is a dear friend of mine named Leo Hillock. and Leo worked for Pal Ford, and which was an AutoNation dealership down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And he's on the committee, and he goes, look, rather than try to work with Ford on, trying to tug of war with them, why don't we create a business with them? And I've written it up. It's on 2 pieces of paper, Ford Direct. And so our subcommittee gets together, Tim Wickstrom from Wickstrom Ford in Barrington, Illinois. He pulls us together, and every other dealer on the committee is like, what the hell is this? We don't know what this is. And Leo goes, well, look, I bought the domain, already own FordDirect.com, and here's the business plan. So we literally spent the next several days during our committee assignments and the next several weeks. And then what happened was we needed somebody to go to Detroit and build the business with Ford's legal team and Ford's business leaders. And I was a young dealer, and I said, I'll do it. So I'd fly up on Tuesday morning, come home on Thursday night, run the store the rest of the week. And we built Ford Direct from scratch. And some really acclaimed names in automotive, Randy Ortiz and Barry Engel, and names that were in Ford's Consumer Connect, Elena Ford's division, if you will. And we put together this business plan. We presented it to Fred Beans and some of the other well-known dealers out in the world, Bert Bachman. And I remember Jim O'Connor with Ford Division says, if you can get these 5 dealers to go along with it, we'll do it. And we did it. And then they said, you know how the goalposts get moved. They said, if you can raise X amount of $1 million, we'll do it. So we did that. And at this point, they couldn't turn us down because we're just rambunctious. And there's 5 of us on this committee, and we pulled it off. And so I became the first employee and chief operating officer of Ford Direct in August of 2000. And in December of 2000, I remember I was in the room, and I'll throw some names out. Steve St. Andre, the owner of Shift Digital, he's in there. He runs marketing. Leo ran dealer relations, and several other, Jared Rowe, who became the CEO or president of Auto Trader. We're all in there, and Jeff Drucker with a company called Trilogy said, if you hit enter, Ford Direct will go live. And so, we hit enter, or I hit enter, and sure enough, the servers all fired up and Ford Direct went live. And it was a glorious day. We called all the dealers on the dealer council that were founders and investors. And here we are 25 years later. Ford Direct is still operating, and many iterations of wonderful leadership, and it's still doing its daily chores and helping Ford dealers.
Well, David, with all the detail, it sounds true that you did this help with you're pivotal with this scrappy, fearless, don't take no startup.
Yes, we were very fortunate. And if it hadn't been for my dear friend Leo Hillock, it never would have happened. And so, all Ford dealers owe a big debt of gratitude to him.
I love these stories of is that the first venture that you officially started from scratch?
Yes. And did not know what we were getting into. We were really excited about it. And of course, there were a lot of opinions. Interesting enough, I'm now, involved in conversations with Amazon Autos and what they're doing. I've worked with Roadster and provided advice for them and other online retailing type platforms. But way back then in 2000, we had 2 types of leads you could get. You could get a lead, which was traditional for $25. And we'd tell you Ashley's name, her email address, what kind of vehicle she wanted, whether she had trade-in, or what we nicknamed the shrink wrap deal. And for $250, we'd give you the deal. And As you probably can imagine, nobody wanted to do a shrink wrap deal.
It's got a good name though.
Oh boy, it was.
And Ford Direct's a good name. These are all somebody's good with branding over on your side.
Yes. And way back then they called it cyber squatting, but when Leo bought that URL, it was a stroke of genius.
Yes. So was this a good springboard, you feel like, with Ford Direct, kind of getting an understanding for getting something started from scratch, your background in auto, to starting the consulting side with Kain Automotive? Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And to understand the dynamics there, how Ford Direct was governed, if you will. We had a CEO, and then we had Steve St. Andre was chief marketing officer, and I was chief operations officer. And my job was to help dealers know how to sell cars. And I went to them and I said, guys, we got to create training. We got to do this. And they said, Ford division handles training. You just concentrate on, getting the products sold and all that other stuff. So I said, well, there's a need in the market, and after 3.5 years, I left and started Kain Automotive, and took my database, and Ashley appreciates database marketing at SDU, and started with the dealers that I was on dealer council with, and I said, remember me? I'll teach you how to sell cars over the internet. And sure enough, that's what I did, and Vernon Krause became my very first customer. Vernon and I served on dealer council together, and he owned Cherokee Automotive Group down in Georgia, right north of Atlanta. And then he told his friend about me, and then the dominoes started to fall.
And these weren't, it started out, it sounds like it was like one-off consulting with Cherokee. It wasn't trying to assemble a 20 group. Were 20 groups a thing at the time?
They were a thing for automotive, and have been for, since 1947, when NCM created them, and Henry Ford II actually attended that first meeting. But the digital 20 groups didn't exist. And I went to NADA, where my father served on the board of directors for 20 plus years. And I said, hey, I'd love to create 20 groups for you. And they said, no, that's okay. We're gonna let our regular moderators just teach digital or talk about digital. And so I went to NCM, and I said, hey, I've been doing workshops for you and doing presentations at 20 groups. Can I create digital 20 groups? And they said, yeah, we don't know anything about digital. So sure, do digital 20 groups. So we created that. Ironically, our mutual friend, Sean Niffen, became a member of that very first group about our third meeting. And boy, it really took off. And that group celebrated its 16th year just this year. And what a wonderful education that was for me. Niff, who is also known as Sean Niffen, he and I then said, well, these BDC internet directors are now doing digital marketing. So we probably need to create a digital marketing 20 group. So he and I founded that one, and I became the moderator. He became a member of that. And then, he never likes to rest. So we created a marketing director 20 group, and that started about 1.5 years ago. And so now there's 3 20 groups. We did have 2 internet BDC 20 groups, but as the other groups grew, we compressed those into one. And so now NCM has 3 20 groups. And after we were acquired, one of the things that when Niff came on board, we talked about is that he would slide over and just become the moderator of those groups. And so we just formally passed the baton to him. And I hope he doesn't wreck those groups, because we've worked awful hard to create them.
It seems like a legendary 1-2 punch between you and Niff. Like, if there's anybody who has the credibility and the chops to do it.
Mm-hmm. He's really funny.
Yeah. And so go ahead.
Ash knows him all too well. I mean, he wants people to succeed. When he says servant leadership, he means that with all his heart.
Yes.
He's as serious about servant leadership as he is about bourbon. So that just goes to show how serious he is about that.
And that's like, we were fortunate to have Niff join us in one of these conversations on the podcast and hear his story of getting all the way up to working with you and getting started. And it was still pretty new for him. And he's like, okay, it's a big change, a big lifestyle change. And it's like, I feel like there's no other skill set I have. I think I'm pretty good at finding really good talent who's more experienced and, has a deeper understanding in categories that are really meaningful to our clients. Like Ashley, like she's been, she knew you way before I did. Like she's been coming to your events since when did you start going, Ashley?
I was trying to remember. We were talking about it before we started the podcast. And I think the first one I went to with Niff and Mel was like 2013. 2013, I think.
And this is before you started doing the 20 groups?
Yes. Yeah. My first 20 group, I think, was 2015. At least the first one I remember was 2015.
That's cool. Yeah, you're pioneer and social for car dealerships. It's an amazing puzzle piece to master.
Yeah, no one was even talking about it. So anytime I went to the meetings, they were like, "Can we talk to Ashley?"
Commodity.
Yeah. It was fun.
Well, David, you had mentioned rolling your company in with NCM after 20 years of running your consulting firm and launching your own conference that had the most intimate, cool atmosphere of any conference, maybe. But what kind of led you to make that decision? And what made you feel like, hey, here's the right stepping stone for you?
Well, luckily for me, early on, digital was such an unknown commodity. And I had been doing presentations for NADA 20 groups. And then this gentleman reached out. His name was Jeff Lampton, and he was a moderator for NCM. And he says, hey, I need a speaker for my 20 group to talk about digital selling and such. So I spoke to him, and boy, what a wonderful opportunity that was. So I spoke to one of his 20 groups, and I spoke to another, and then another moderator asked me to get involved. And so for over 18 years, 19 years now, I had been doing 20 group presentations. Then we created the 20 groups, but then we were part of the NCM Institute, and we provided the internet BDC training, of which my colleague Chelsea Stillwell flies to Kansas City, and 6 times a year she teaches internet BDC, and then 4 times a year she teaches digital marketing. And so we were already part of the knitting with NCM. And then Brenda Strummer, the chief operating officer, her and I had become good friends and talked about business collaboration, how we could do more together as companies, because even after all these years, they still didn't have anything formal with respect to digital. And so Paul Folletti, who's the CEO, he and I had danced around a few times, and he was like, what if you sewed? What if you sewed? And the third time truly proved to be charm. And maybe it was a combination of me, hitting a certain age, and 20 years is a lot of time to be involved in this. And so they said, you could come in and sell the company. We'd grow digital within NCM, and you could relax a little bit. And I thought that sounded pretty attractive. So that's the situation I'm in. Now I'm not working 18-hour days. I'm working 12-hour days. So it's a lot less than it was. And instead of traveling every week of the month, I'm only traveling about 3 weeks of the month. But the wind down is starting to appear on the horizon, and I'm expecting that to be the case. And so this year, one of my key focuses is to change the Kain Clients and Friends Digital Success Workshop to the NCM Clients and Friends Digital Success Workshop, of which I'm proud to say Dealer OMG has raised their hand and said they want to be one of the first participants in that as a speaker and a sponsor. And so we're really looking to have the members that attend be very well educated. And I'll put this plug in. It's going to take place September 9th through 11th. And instead of the rolling hills of Central Kentucky, I forget where I live sometimes, of Central Kentucky, we're now going to move to the Midwestern plains of Kansas City. And so we're going to have some fun events that weave in what Kansas City is known for. And so we're really excited about what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I'm fired up for it. Like I've got Sherry, somebody that's been on our staff for a few years with a lot of automotive chops, lives in Kansas City. It's going to be a good opportunity to get together with her, which is going to be fun.
Really good.
But we had like our leadership team together in Austin a few Mondays ago when the email came out about NCM's, about the conference. And we just looked at each other and it took 4 seconds. It's like, say yes, just say yes. Let's book it and claim that spot, and we'll figure out who's speaking and exactly what the educational, presentation will be about and how to make it good. But yeah, it's a no-brainer for us.
Yeah, it as you pointed out, we really have a point of pride in bringing the foremost experts in each of the disciplines, and being able to have the attendees walk up to you after you present, meet you, sit at a consultation table, and literally strategize as to what your company can do for theirs, and the trials and tribulations they've been through. And so just, that's for social. Imagine for search, imagine for CRM, imagine for all of that. And not have 1,000 people in the room to where, you have to wait in a line of 20 people to get to speak to the speaker. You might have 2 or 3, waiting, but they'll get to know who Andrew Street is, who Ashley is, who Dave is. And, you look at your team members, and it affords them and the attendees the opportunity to be with someone who lives and breathes this. And I don't know about you guys, but I bet every podcast, every interaction with a client, your brain just grows and your knowledge base just grows. And it's very humbling to be in this position because people share stuff with you, and it's pretty magical to always have fresh inputs. And what was that movie, Short Circuit, where the little robot says, need input? I think that's what the 3 of us are like. We need input, and we thrive on it when we're in those kind of situations.
Yeah, I feel like we don't really have an excuse to do anything but keep growing and learning. And it seems like just by extension of you being so energized and out there and having these types of conversations that keep you up to speed and a little bit ahead of the curve of what's coming up and what to expect, it's also like come with the byproduct of having a huge Rolodex. That's like something you can't learn. It's not something you can buy or get in college. It's something that comes from being out there and being completely immersed in the industry.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up, because Dave Sponicky and I, who along with Brent Williams just did our newest endeavor. And people say I'm an entrepreneur. I've started a lot of businesses. I've lucked into a lot of businesses. And so when Brent Williams approached me about doing vendor 20 groups, we thought, well, what the heck? That's a good idea. Dave Sponicky and I got involved, and now we're in April going to launch our 4th vendor 20 group. And Dave Lemon was the executive director, chairman from Dealer OMG of our very first Vendor 20 group. And some people, like, well, I didn't know you were going to create others. And we wouldn't have. That was not on our roadmap. That was not our ambition. But the desire and one of the key tenets of our 20 groups is if we got a social media company, we don't need another social media company. We need a search company, a pay-per-click company, transportation company. So you got all these business owners coming together and collaborating. How do you recruit? What's your acquisition cost of customers? What event should I go to? When I get to the event, what should I do? It is remarkable. After 20 years, I'm like, hell, I need to open up a new business because I'm getting so smart interacting with all these business people.
Yeah, it seems like a natural step that wasn't clear. It wasn't obvious that was there, but then when it comes up, it's like, okay, yes, let's do that. And we were fortunate to get onto the first Vendor 20 group where we can network and just kind of look over the fence at other vendors and what their headwinds are and what's helped them, what's hurt them for recruiting staff, for serving their dealers, for managing conversations, for hiring remote, and all these different things that come across our desks. To have a platform where we can openly talk about it without being too vulnerable, without feeling like, hey, we're feeding too much information back into people that could be seen as competing for the same dollars. What's the experience been like so far? Like the difference between vendor 20 groups and dealer 20 groups? Has there been a?
I think if you think about it, the dealer 20 groups, the environment is pretty narrow. We've got our internet leads, we've got our website, we've got our CRM, we've got our communication elements, we do some social interactions and so on and so forth. So it's very compressed into this one operation, unless you're like Garber, that has 70 some stores, with the right way used cars, and then their traditional retail. And some of the other big groups like Jermaine that Ashley worked at with 20 some rooftops, but there's a lot of single point stores, but operationally we're all kind of in the same path. When you go to the vendor 20 groups, some are serving independent dealers. Some are really well integrated in state associations. Some have relationships with OEMs. And so it's really vast and expansive. And, so you'll sit there and someone will say, well, we finally decided we're going to get involved in OEM programs. So we need to work with Unite Digital. We need to work with Shift Digital. Does anybody work with those? And it's remarkable, that collaborative spirit that goes back and forth. And, in the hallway, they might whisper company secrets to their best buddy or have a non-disclosure agreement, peer-to-peer, company to company. But in the open forum, they're not expressing company secrets or intellectual property and things of that nature. They're literally just kind of helping each other collaborate, think through. It's really, really awesome. And some of the partnerships that have been formed, and like you guys and Reunion Marketing, and some of the things that you all done, and the cross-pollination of, I know that guy, or I know you and Dave Sponicky went on the road to the Northeast and met some of our clients and put on a heck of a nice road show. So those kind of outputs, I promise nobody ever deliberately lined that out on a spreadsheet and said, first we're going to do this and then we're going to do this. It just happened organically.
And it seems like you're on like a unique bridge that you've created between dealerships and vendors now. And gives you a unique lens into both sides and an ear and some conversations that nobody on planet Earth probably has, really. And is there kind of a takeaway that you've had with the V20 groups and with the dealership 20 groups and your involvement with consulting with dealers that is like, here's some thoughts for vendors that they can do to best serve dealers?
Yeah, it's interesting. I am building a course right now for one of our clients that says, my team needs to learn about the automotive dealerships. What should we know? How does a dealership operate? And so, one of the things that I've learned as I am involved in these 20 groups is we've got these wonderful staffs. They're very talented, and they know how to communicate with dealers. They just don't have a clue what a dealership operation really entails. Uh, what it takes to win the President's Award or the Chairman's Award, or what pump in and pump out is, what market share is, and how reputation makes all the difference in whether or not a dealer opens up another point, and factory relationships. So what we're doing right now is I'm now building coursework for us to be able to leverage, not just to the client that I'm doing it for, but to literally be able to help all of our vendors kind of understand some of those dynamics. And I was really lucky. I've got 8 brothers and sisters, and I was raised in our family store. And my wife describes it sometimes, and Ashley, you'll appreciate this. She says, "You act like your mother was laying on the showroom floor giving birth to you kids." And, and to some degree, it was almost like that. When you have your 9th kid, your dad just picks it up and takes it to the dealership, right? And the beat goes on. But Dad, I remember I was a sales manager at our store, our main store. We had 3 others while I was there, and had 6 brands. But what was interesting was I said, "Dad, I want to start learning about how to operate the store. And so, if you could give me the operations manual, I'll start reading it at night." And he goes, "I'm the operations manual. I stood 30 feet from you, buddy. If you ever need anything, you just let me know." And that's what I would do. Is each day I would just go have lunch or be with him, and I just absorbed this guy who last year in March he passed away after 94 years. He'd been in the car business since 1952 as a dealer. Before that, as a salesperson while he was in school. And he just raised us all to do that. And right above me is this plaque that he received. It's a DeSoto Master Salesperson plaque. And when he passed away, I asked my family, I said, "That's the one item I really value," because, DeSoto got slammed a bunch. And I bet maybe existing, there might be a few other DeSoto Master Salespersons, but that was a really cool one. And Dad always taught us, he goes, be involved, understand how the business changes, read up on it, and be prepared to lead. And I think his encouragement for me to, after 20 years at the store, be brave enough to create, along with a wonderful team of members of our committee, Ford Direct and the dealers of the 2000 Ford Dealer Council that invested in that idea and got it going. That was the spirit that my dad gave me. And, not that he wanted to get rid of me at the dealership, because, I'd operated it for several years, but I sure appreciated his spirit in pushing me out of the nest and say, go forth and try something different.
That's cool. That's good. Hard to hear, or hard to take action on advice. Like, okay, well, I thought this was going to be my home forever, but what else is out there, and how can I serve this industry that I've learned so much about? And it's like, it's hard to beat, in my experience, like that. Just an interaction with somebody who has a vast amount of knowledge that they might not even realize how much they actually know until they start teaching other people. And it's like when I first started doing auto, we had our first dealer that would sell Toyotas, and they would lose money on average per car sold. And I was coming in and I was focused on e-commerce for marketing. And I'm like, how are you guys still in business? I finally flew out to my first digital dealer and sat next to him. I'm like, how does this work? What is a DMS? What is an internet department, and what is a BDC, and what's the difference? And, asking everything I can figure out within a 2-hour flight to Florida while we're drinking Bloody Mary on just like, let me just get a crash course on how in the hell these things operate. But outside of like getting all that from your father, is there like a good resource that you really like to listen to or read to keep you up to speed with where the industry is?
Well, we've got so many generous participants out there, and someone that I pay real close attention to, who really is in the know, is Cliff Banks, who you all know well, and he studies the industry, particularly now from an investment, mergers and acquisition type thing. Also, the dealer principals that I interact with on a regular basis, they coach me and whisper in my ear, what about this, what about that, and keeping your OEM relationships really close at hand, and making sure you're aware of what those are. So for me, I've been really lucky because now I've got these vendor relationships, I've got the employees that I interact with on a regular basis, the principals, and of course the OEMs. It's just a real mosaic that helps me. And then you pay attention to guys, like Jamie Butters, the editor of Automotive News, who's become a real good friend of mine and shares a lot of good information with me. You look at big titans in the industry like Cox Automotive that studies consumer behavior, and David Steinberg at Four Eyes, and the generosity of those companies that do the reporting for us is just amazing. And then I love Steve Greenfield, who's paying attention to new investments, and plus
the money
he
going?
likes cats. I like cats. It's just a really good harmonious relationship. So, there's a lot of really smart people out there, and then I like to pay attention to guys like Jay Vijayan with Techion, and what they're doing, and what a industry disruptor can do and be. And we've got it in a lot of different segments. Dealer OMG, industry leader, industry disruptor, but very innovative and very creative, but steady. And it's one thing to be disruptive and a creator, but boy, dealers sure like steady performance. And I think that's part of your gift, is you do all that.
Do we get that recorded, Ashley? Yeah. One resource that's been like so beneficial for me personally is in our team has been the car dealership guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his emails just give me a quick glimpse of what in the hell is going on in the industry, and help feed my lips with things to talk about and directions to go with marketing strategies based on where the market is.
Yeah, Yossi, I liked how he was real quiet about it, and then he's a good marketer. Andrew, you got to remember this: when someone gets paid to reveal themselves from a big giant like Alex Vetter at Cars Commerce, and at NADA a couple of years ago, comes out, that's a big deal. And he continues to do really meaningful work. And obviously he relies on a real team of talented team members to, dissect and dig and come up with all those great stories. And he's a lot like these sports reporters that, all of a sudden someone's, like that Steve, Wojnarowski, I think I'm probably messing up his name, but he's now left to go work at a university. But Woj always knew what the latest was, and people trusted him. And so now that's happening with Yossi, and I think that's really cool.
It's fun to watch too.
Yeah,
It keeps,
it really
yeah,
is.
it's like it keeps some kind of like mysterious excitement in the industry at the same time providing a lot of value.
Yes.
Okay, I think we can skip a few sections that I thought we were going to talk about just to give you your day back with some more fun, maybe questions. But any personal stories from with Ford Direct or with Kain Automotive or V20s or something you're working on now that was like a big aha moment of this is why I do it, and we're getting this thing's going to work. This thing is producing results.
Okay, so it's kind of a interesting story. It's where you use the tempers of dealers to have something really remarkable play out. So in the year 2000, Ford Motor Company had a Firestone tire issue going on. They also had this program they'd announced called Blue Over Certified. And Jerry Reynolds, who's a dear friend of mine, who has his own show called the Car Pro Show, Jerry was the first two-time dealer council chairperson. And so we were at that point doing what they called Ford Star Broadcast. And it was kind of the precursor to what we're doing even today. And so they announced Ford has a special announcement, and we're going to have a Ford Star broadcast. And we barely started leaking out anything about Ford Direct. We'd had some dealer meetings and stuff. So we teased it, and Jerry goes, I have a feeling this is going to be the largest Ford Star broadcast ever, because everybody's thinking we're going to talk about Firestone tires and Blue Oval Certified. And it came live, and I'm sitting there, Bill Keith is sitting there, Jerry's sitting there, and we're talking about Ford Direct. And we kind of caught the dealers unaware, and they thought we were going to come up with a solution to those issues or an announcement on them, and we were announcing Ford Direct. Had we not done that, our signups wouldn't have been anything, but we, within weeks, were able to get over 4,000 Ford dealers to sign up for that program.
Yes.
And it was amazing. And we count that broadcast, which at that time was Ford's largest audience ever. But that just goes to show how luck will work in your favor.
What a cool experience.
Yeah.
Like that seems like it put the wind in the sails for this last 25 years of navigating new companies and startups and what you're doing in the industry.
Yeah.
What's your favorite car right now?
Wow. There's so many. I love fast cars. I love BMWs. My favorite was a BMW 30 Series convertible, and it was fast and very explosive. But you don't have to have a big engine to be effective. I love my Mini Cooper, and they just put a real rush when you accelerate. But I'll share this story. I turned 16 August 20th, 1966. And being a car dealer's kid, I already knew how to drive. I learned to drive on the lot since I was around 13, 14. And 30 days later, I got my license. 30 days later, I got pulled over in a Ford 1960, saying 66, 76. Yeah, so 16 years old in 76. Got pulled over doing 86 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone, coming home from school in a Ford 4-cylinder Mustang, or what was known as a Mustang 2. It was white with red striping. It was awesome. And I'll never forget looking in the rearview mirror, because there was a 4-lane highway. There's a huge grassy median, And this police officer, his name was Paul Herbst, because he pulled me over 2 more times and gave me tickets each time. I saw him hit the grass and spin, and then he accelerated. I was already pulled over and crying almost when he stopped me. But here's the good news. Back in 76, you could go sit with the judge and he would forgive you if you were contrite.
Really?
So,
just a sincere apology?
Yeah.
Oh my
Judge
gosh.
Blackard, I'm so sorry. No, it
You
wasn't
remember
as
his
effective.
name?
Oh yeah, it wasn't as effective the third time, but luckily for me, he was older and his memory wasn't that good. So he would say, "Well, what we're going to do is we're going to make this just improper equipment, and we'll not worry about it." And I was like, "Sounds good to me, sir."
Man, well, David, thank you for your time. And it sounds like you've got a few more hours in your day that you can mountain bike and get out there on the trails around Louisville.
Plan to do that today. So thank you very much for giving me some time back. And as I'm pedaling up and down the hills of Cherokee Park today, I'll remember this wonderful conversation.
Oh, that's great. That makes me feel great. And yeah, I guess folks can look up NCM. Where can they go if they want to grab tickets?
Yeah, so we're going to be announcing it today. So we'll have a web page up and they'll be able to access it through NCM Associates. And then we'll have ncmassociates.com. And then we'll also be blasting some emails out and have it all over social media. So keep that in mind. The NCM Clients and Friends Digital Success Workshop this September 9th through the 11th in Kansas City. And Dealer OMG will be there, front and center.
Yeah, I'll help do my job to spread the word. And also, if people are interested in V20, I imagine go right to Dave Sponicky and send him a DM or email him.
Absolutely.
Help
we
triage.
Will all be glad to help.
Yes. Well, David, it's been a real pleasure, and I appreciate your willingness to do this with us.
Oh, it's great, and great to see Ashley, and I can't wait to see you guys in person.
Yes.
Yeah, likewise, my friend.
Good seeing you.